Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder, the place where we read through complicated corporate documents, so you don't have to. In this video, we are going to be looking at Franklin Covey's most recent quarterly report, which seems pretty tame, unless of course their stock price decides to imitate a roller coaster at a moment's notice. This report is basically a checkup on how the company did over the last 3 months. Think of it like a report card. We'll dive into the numbers, see what they did well, and what challenges they faced. We will focus on a few very important things, their sales, expenses, and overall profitability. Before we get started, if you appreciate getting straight insights from corporate documents, do subscribe to our channel. We also have a community Discord channel, which is linked in the description below. Come join the conversation. Kroll Commission, file number Q001. 11107 scroll. What is Franklin Covey exactly? They are in the business of helping people and organizations improve. Their mission is to enable greatness in people and organizations everywhere. They provide training and tools around leadership, productivity, and execution, mostly based on well-known books like The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Think of it as corporate coaching and motivational speaking all rolled into one. Let us dive straight into the numbers. First thing to note is this report is for the period that ended in May of 2025. First, let's glance at the balance sheet, which tells us what the company owns, which are their assets, and what it owes, which are their assets, and what it owes, which are their liabilities. Scroll accounts receivable, less allowance for credit losses of QSEI. 2003-2028 scroll, T's accounts receivable are down quite a bit from 86 million to about 50 million from last year. That means people are paying what they owe quite fast. On the liability side, deferred subscription revenue decreased a lot too, from 101 million to 83 million. This means they are successfully providing subscriptions that they have previously committed to. These are generally good news. Tells us about the top line revenues and what the actual profit looks like. Remember that this is in thousands of dollars unless mentioned otherwise, so every number has to be multiplied by 1,000 to get the actual number. Okay, so revenue is down year over year a little bit, from 73 million last year to 67 million this year. This is always concerning, but let's dig deeper. And they had a loss this year, 1.4 million versus a profit of 5.7 million during the same quarter last year. So what happened here? Well, selling, general and administrative expenses, which is how much you are spending to operate the office, is up year over year from 45 million to almost 47 million this year. In addition, the restructuring expenses ballooned this year from 700,000 to 4.7 million. Now, everyone usually likes to know is what's the earnings per share. Earnings per share is basically if the company decided to give all the profit to the shareholders alone and not reinvest in the business, how much money would each shareholder get per share they own? And this number is negative this year at zero, and that company lost money. Finally, the statement of cash flows to tell us where their cash came from and where it's going. Alright, so cash from operation is 19 million. This is a significant decrease from last year at 38 million, which is consistent with their revenues. So as you just saw at a glance, the quarter compared to last year is not good. Revenue is down, costs are considerably up, and therefore the profit picture is looking really rough compared to how they performed last year. Now let's look deeper. They spent 23 million buying back their own stock, and these aren't cheap shares either. This probably helped prop up the share price with all the bad news coming out. This is slightly concerning. Remaining transaction price represents contracted revenue that has not yet been recognized, including unearned revenue and unbilled amounts that will be recognized as revenue in future periods. Translation, they better make sure that these services are delivered at May 31, 2025. They had 1/21/2025. They had $151.4 million of remaining performance obligations, including their deferred subscription revenue. Let's talk about payments. There is a long-term incentive, performance and retention plan. What this essentially means is that employees can get a piece of the company for good performance. This helps keep employees aligned with shareholder interests. Scroll operations consist of 5 scrolls, so the company has 5 main business segments. North America, where they train corporate employees in the USA and Canada. F&, international license, where they leave distributors around the world to train corporate employees, but only in some selected countries like the UK, Japan and France. Exit International license, where they leave distributors around the world to train corporate employees. Their education segment, where they do training for educational institutions. Finally, the catch all in its corporate and other segments. Now, the first two segments, North America and Japan, is performing quite poorly and is impacting the bottom line, educational institutions. Finally, the catch all in its corporate and other segments, South. Now, the first two segments, North America and Japan, is performing quite poorly and is impacting the bottom line. Education segment appears to be performing fine. Real quick, they seem to have signed a lease for a new headquarters office in Draper for about 0.8 million. Nothing much. Let's talk risk factors. Now, it wouldn't be a corporate document without a section on risk factors. These are basically the company telling you what could go wrong and then they can't be sued later. One of the primary risks they outlined is the loss of governmental funding for the education segment. This highlights the reliance on continued government funding for key programs. Any reduction or expiration of these funds could hurt their ability to grow in this space. To wrap their next risk was regarding their governmental clients, which means that politicians might do things like, make decisions based on political opinions and not based on what's actually good, which includes the current administration's adopting adjustments to tariffs. All of these are, of course, out of Franklin Covey's control. Finally, they mention that an adverse resolution of ongoing litigation with their prior landlord for $3.8 million may harm their company. This is for a property in Salt Lake City filed on December 2024. So overall, what do we think about Franklin Covey so far? I'd say this report could be better. Revenue declining, that always raises alarm bells, especially where you're borrowing quite a load amount of cash to buy back your own stock, to prop up the price and make it look good. Not that the money could be better spent elsewhere. However, the education segments appears to be performing strong and is carrying whatever weaknesses are popping up in the commercial segments. I think long term, what really needs to be looked into is how this company can improve to become more profitable or cut away underperforming departments. What do you think? Let everyone know in the comments below. Alright, that's it for this corporate decoding. If you found value in this, do subscribe to the channel. We also have a Discord community that's linked in the description below. Feel free to join that. Have a good day.